It was supposed to be a friendly primetime interview, a light-hearted discussion about leadership, vision, and the future of Britain. But what unfolded that night was something entirely different. Jeremy Clarkson, known for his brutal honesty and unapologetic wit, went head-to-head with Labour leader Keir Starmer on live television, and within minutes, the atmosphere turned electric. No script, no filter, just raw confrontation. And by the end of it, Starmer looked completely shattered. The tension began with Clarkson's opening line. "Keir, you've been called many things: serious, sensible, even boring. But here's what I want to know. What do you actually believe in?" The audience laughed, but Starmer didn't. He gave a measured answer about responsibility and fairness, but Clarkson wasn't buying it. "That's not an answer," he fired back. "That's a slogan. If you can't tell people what you stand for in one sentence, maybe you don't stand for much at all." The studio went silent. Starmer blinked, clearly caught off guard. Trying to regain composure, Starmer shifted gears. "I believe in making Britain work for everyone, not just the privileged few." Clarkson leaned forward, smirking. "Funny you say that," he said, "because half the country thinks you're just Tony Blair without the charisma." The audience gasped. Starmer attempted a polite smile, but Clarkson pressed on. "You talk about fairness, yet your front bench is filled with career politicians who've never worked outside politics. Where's the real Britain in that?" It was brutal television. Clarkson wasn't doing the usual political Q&A, he was doing what he does best, cutting through pretense with a dose of unvarnished truth. Starmer, used to structured interviews, was clearly out of his comfort zone. He tried to steer the conversation back to Labour's policies, NHS reform, cost of living support, economic growth, but Clarkson interrupted again. "Policies are one thing," he said, "but leadership is another. Can you actually inspire people? Because right now, you sound like a PowerPoint presentation with legs." The audience roared with laughter, but behind that laughter was something sharper, a growing sense that Clarkson was saying what many ordinary Britons had been thinking. Starmer's polished answers suddenly seemed out of place, mechanical, even hollow. And Clarkson wasn't done. "You know, Keir," he continued, "people don't follow politicians because of policies, they follow them because of passion. When was the last time anyone said you inspired them?" Starmer's tone hardened. "I'm not here to play games, Jeremy. Politics isn't entertainment. It's about responsibility." Clarkson grinned. "That's the problem, mate. You think leadership is about being careful, but this country doesn't need careful, it needs courage." The room fell quiet again. Even the host looked uneasy. For once, Starmer had no quick comeback. He was staring across at a man who had no political ambitions, no party lines to defend, and nothing to lose. Then came the twist that stunned everyone. Clarkson pulled out a printed quote from an old Starmer interview. "You once said you admired Tony Blair's moral clarity. Yet, you've spent years avoiding his name. Are you trying to be him, or erase him?" Starmer hesitated. "I respect what Tony achieved, but this is a new generation." Clarkson pounced. "Then why does it feel like the same story, told worse?" The camera zoomed in on Starmer's face, his calm expression slipping for the first time. Social media lit up within minutes. Clips of the exchange flooded Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Headlines read, "Clarkson obliterates Starmer on live TV," and "Keir's meltdown in primetime showdown." Even political commentators were stunned. One analyst described it as a rare moment where Starmer's mask cracked, and what lay beneath was uncertainty. For Clarkson, it was another victory in his long history of speaking uncomfortable truths. For Starmer, it was a PR disaster. But beyond the drama, something deeper was unfolding. Clarkson's jabs had exposed a bigger problem, a growing disconnect between Britain's politicians and its people. Starmer had all the facts, all the polish, all the preparation, but none of the raw conviction that ordinary voters wanted to see. Clarkson, the outsider, the provocateur, had managed to speak more powerfully about leadership in 5 minutes than the opposition leader had in 5 years. By the end of the show, Starmer tried to laugh it off. "You make a good journalist, Jeremy," he said awkwardly. Clarkson shot back, "And you'd make a great bureaucrat." The audience burst into laughter again, but the damage was done. As the credits rolled, Starmer's team looked visibly shaken. The man who was supposed to look like Britain's next prime minister now looked uncertain, exposed, and human in all the wrong ways. And as the cameras faded to black, one question lingered in everyone's mind, a question that echoed across social media, dinner tables, and political circles alike. If Jeremy Clarkson can tear apart Keir Starmer in one interview, how will Starmer ever stand up to the pressures of running a nation? The showdown was over, but the fallout had just begun, and Britain was watching every second of it.